Hey everybody, I'm Logan Alec. I own Choice Tax Relief. We help folks get in the best possible resolution with the IRS or the state on their tax debt. And today I'm talking about a notice of deficiency notice. This is the CP3219A. You can see that pretty little notice number here at the upper right hand corner of the screen. What the heck is this? What to do? I'm going to tell you all in this video what to do if you got this nasty notice from the IRS. There is scary language in it, right? Filing a petition with the tax court and all this. Going to get into it. Going to tell you what to do. Do not worry. But first of all, what is this notice? Well, first of all, who is sending you this notice? This notice is sent by the IRS Automated Underreporter or AUR department. So on the notice, when you see AUR control number, that's what that means, right? AUR is the department at the IRS, the Automated Underreporter unit that is sending you this notice. Now, if you got the CP3219A from AUR, it's likely that you had previously received the CP2000 from AUR. CP2000, this is the CP2000. This is the first notice that IRS AUR sends to a taxpayer when there is a mismatch between the income that the taxpayer reported on their tax return and income that the IRS believes the taxpayer earned based on third-party documents such as 1099s, W-2s, K-1s, especially those 1099-Bs for stocks and crypto, which is what a lot of these, we're seeing a lot of this stuff right now in those two arenas. So basically, IRS sends a CP2000 if you don't respond to it. Or even if you do, because IRS AUR is so backlogged right now. Case in point, I just saw this. I want to show you guys something. I mean, maybe I'm just like needlessly ranting and complaining about IRS at this point, but I did want to show you folks. So after you send a notice to a CP2000, right, or even a CP3219A to AUR, they're going to send you this 4314C letter saying that they need more time to complete the review of the information you submitted. Now, it used to be that a month after you submit your response, you fax your response to AUR pertaining to the CP2000 or CP3219A, whatever, it used to be you'd get this 4314C, within a month, pretty much. Well, check this out. AUR received our reply for this particular client's, I don't know if this is a response to CP2000 or CP3219A, but on March 15, 2024, right? And now, just in June, 87 days later, right? Are they getting back to us and saying, almost 3 months, right? Are they getting back to us with the 4314C saying they need additional time, right? This is all to say right now, folks, that the IRS AUR Automated Underreporter Unit is significantly backlogged. And one thing that you need to watch out for is your case falling through the cracks. This responding to CP2000s, responding to CP3219As, it's not just, oh, fax that over, cross that off my list. No, they have to be followed up with relentlessly. And that's when we deal with these, this is part of our service. We do follow up with AUR, make sure that the case does not fall through the cracks, right? To resolve the case as quickly as possible, right? So the tax doesn't actually get assessed. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that IRS AUR significantly backlogged right now. Where should I go now? Let's go back to this CP3219A. Okay. Obviously up here is the IRS office that sent this notice to you. This case is the Fresno campus. Here's your address and stuff here. Notice of deficiency. Proposed increase in tax and notice of your right to challenge. So this is a legal notice, okay? Notice of deficiency, also known as a 90-day letter, right? Because there is a 90-day deadline attached to this letter, okay? 150 days if you're outside the United States, right? 90 days from the date of the letter, right, which you can see up here, to basically respond to this notice of deficiency, or else the IRS will assess the tax in the amount that it describes here under the increase of tax, which is basically what the word deficiency means, along with the tax understatement penalty, which the IRS assesses. It's simply 20% of this amount here. Okay. If it believes that the understatement of tax on your original return in which you did not report the income it believes you should have rises to the level of a substantial understatement. Okay, and it's a substantial understatement if you understate the amount of tax liability on your return by at least 10%, as long as that understatement is at least $5,000. Okay, I'll probably make a whole other video on the substantial understatement penalty, but that's what that is, if you're wondering. Okay, so notice deficiency is a 90-day letter. Okay, CP2000 is a 30-day letter, right? 30 days to respond before it'll kick you into the 9-day letter sequence. And what am I saying? We determined there's a deficiency and increase in your 2021 income tax based on information we received from third parties, right? Same thing as a CP2000. Okay. If you disagree, you have the right to challenge this determination in U.S. tax court. If you choose to do so, you must file your petition with the tax court by August 12th, 2024. This date cannot be extended. August 12th, 2024 is 90 days from May 13th, 2024. Hence, 90-day letter. Now, do you have to go to tax court to resolve your CP3219A? No, you do not. It may be prudent to, but the vast majority of CP3219A cases can generally be handled directly with the IRS without having to deal with tax court. And it says as such right here on the notice. You may be able to resolve this matter without going to U.S. tax court if you contact us directly. Okay, and I'll talk about that section there in a little bit. Right, and that's assuming you disagree that you owe this much, right, this increase in tax. And oftentimes you should disagree, because oftentimes what's going on here is the IRS is trying to assess you on an amount of tax increase that is based on some gross amount from, say, a 1099, right? You sold crypto. It got reported on 1099B to the IRS. The basis was not reported to the IRS. Okay, it's taxing you on your crypto sales as though you didn't pay anything for your crypto, right? Pure profit on each sale. Same thing with stocks, right? If the basis in stocks was not reported to the IRS. If this is 1099 NEC for non-employee compensation, you go and do some work for somebody, you fill a W-9, you're an independent contractor, they pay you money, right? Let's say you get a 1099 for $50,000, whatever it is. That is, the gross amount you made, right? Working as an independent contractor, but you probably had expenses that you can reduce that $50,000 by on your tax return. IRS with this CP2000, CP3219A, they are simply going to assess you on the gross amount, right? And so on and so forth, right? So oftentimes it makes sense to contest these things. Or you could agree. I mean, sometimes it's, an arena in which we see agreement a lot is with retirement account distributions. For some reason, we're seeing this a lot recently. Someone files a tax return but didn't report their 1099-R that had a taxable distribution from an IRA or something on their return, right? In that case, it may be prudent to agree. I mean, oftentimes you will contest the substantial, understatement penalty, but that's a context in which we sometimes see taxpayers just agree. Talking about low-income taxpayer clinic and taxpayer advocate service. Good luck if you work with TAS right now. We have not had great fun with taxpayer advocate service. I'll probably complain about them in another video at some point. All right, so you do have the right to petition the tax court, right? So this notice is basically the deadline. The clock is starting to tick on the 9-day period in which you can petition the tax court to resolve this matter in tax court, okay? Now, like I said, you do not have to go through the tax court system to resolve this matter. If it's a relatively straightforward matter, you can probably resolve it directly, just with the IRS directly and not in tax court, okay? But if you do want to go the tax court route, you do it to file this petition within 90 days of the date of the notice. Now, I'm not going to speak too much on this. I do not do tax court petitions at Choice Tax Relief. We have tax attorneys on staff who do. Okay, and maybe I'll get one of them on the channel at some point to talk about this. You can electronically file tax court petitions, or you can mail your task, or you can download it. It gives the right. So this is, you would start here to start the process. Download your petition. Well, you can do it electronically there. You could also download the petition and send it here. Right. You want to make sure you do it right. You want to copy the notice, any attachments supporting your case, the filing fee, right? Make sure that's included. And this tax court petition is not filed with the IRS. Tax court is a completely separate thing from the IRS. They are not the same. It's a completely different entity. The IRS is part of the executive branch of the government. The IRS commissioner, is appointed by the president. Okay, the tax court is a part of our judicial branch. It's a part of our judicial system. Okay, it's a completely different thing. So don't file tax court petitions with the IRS. This is basically just talking about the time limits on filing a petition, which I've already gone over. Tax court has a simplified. Let's go down here. Tax court has a simplified. Tax court has a simplified procedure for small cases. Not legal advice. I'm not an attorney. From what I've heard from our attorneys here at Choice Tax Relief, they generally don't go this route, even if they can. All right, and then here's what I want to talk about. You may be able to resolve your dispute with the IRS. Okay, if this is a relatively straightforward matter, I sold a bunch of crypto in Robinhood, and IRS is trying to tax me on all of it, and I know my basis because it's in the Robinhood end of the year crypto statement from Robinhood Crypto LLC. Do what it says here, right? I would recommend you do it by fax, right? You can fax it with the enclosed 5564. You can use the 5564. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we just write a nice, letterhead with our company logo on it, and just basically write out the case, right? Write out our client's case on the thing, right? And fax it to AUR with all the supporting documents, right? We'll fax it to the notice right up here, or the fax number right up there. Okay. We prefer that instead of mailing it, to be frank. Okay. Right. And now one thing to keep in mind is that if you want to preserve your tax court rights, whether or not you try to deal with it directly with the IRS, you have to file your tax court petition within 90 days of the notice date. Okay. You can do both. You can file a tax court petition and also try to work it out with the IRS at the same time, because when you file a tax court petition, it doesn't mean you're actually going to go to tax court and your case is going to be argued before a tax court judge. Oftentimes, these tax court petitions, they get kicked to an appeals officer, right, who tries to work out the case there, right, in appeals before it even actually goes to tax court, so to speak. Here's what you do if you agree with the proposed changes. Vast majority of clients come to us with one of these things. We're not agreeing to the changes. We're going to fight it, right? But that's what you could do if you want to just agree to the changes. What if you don't? Well, sorry, my face is covering things. What if you don't respond? Well, if the IRS isn't here from you and you don't petition the tax court, IRS will assess the additional tax you owe, or they believe you owe, plus any applicable penalties and interest, and send you a bill. Here's some additional information they basically put in every single notice, or most notices anyway. Talk about low-income taxpayer clinics, TAS. TAS has not been good to us lately. And then here is where they show the changes on your 2021 tax return, similar to what you'd see on a CP2000, right? Security sales, you reported this, taxpayer, we believe it should be this, right? And here's the difference. And so therefore, because our income is different, your total tax liability is different, right? Go from $2,774 to $13,143. And here's credits or withholdings. Looks like that was the same, right? So basically, how they come up with the deficiency amount there, right? So, which is the same as this number here, right? the difference between the tax liability shown on the return and the tax liability that the IRS thinks is correct. And then below that, you have the explanation of changes, which basically shows you every single tax document that the IRS received for which it believes you did not report the income on your tax return, or you reported some different amount that is incorrect. So you can see all the Robinhood crypto stuff there, right? And so, IRS knew the proceeds of the transaction, but not the basis, because the taxpayer did not report the transaction at all on their 1040. And that's what created this problem here. You can use the document upload tool to reply. We don't do this because this is generally only for taxpayers to use, believe it or not. We generally just fax our response, and that way we can, it can be logged into our CRM as well and time and date stamped for our internal records. Okay. Here's about information talking about cost basis of the stock sold, right? If you have cost basis the IRS doesn't have, here's what to do. Send us a completed Schedule D, capital gains and losses, along with a completed 8849 sales and other disposition of capital assets, or similar attachment showing the following for each listed stock transaction: asset name, date you acquired the asset, cost or adjusted basis. Misidentified income, if there's income shown in this section here. Explanation of changes that you do not believe is yours, and this can happen from time to time. You're supposed to send the IRS the name, address, and taxpayer identification number of the person who received the income. So, sometimes it's just completely fraudulent. We've seen that. Matter of fact, I think it was a PayPal, like some European PayPal 1099 the other day. Or it's maybe somebody put your information on the W-9 if they knew it when they should have put theirs, right? So this section is basically urging you to fix the issue and reach out to the IRS and whoever issued the 1099 if you receive a 1099 for money somebody else made. And then they're kind of preemptively dealing with the objection. Well, I never received my tax document. They'll say, okay, the law still requires you to accurately report all income you receive, right? Whether or not you get a tax document for it. Okay. Refigured tax base on Schedule D computation. Okay, that's just, because long-term capital gains and qualified dividends are subject to special lower tax rates. So there's kind of a special tax calculation if that they have those items of income on the return. That's all this is saying. Power of attorney, we sent a copy of this notice to your representative as shown in your power of attorney. That's why yours truly, well, my company anyway, Choice Tax Relief, got the notice too. Where were we, boys and girls? Right. Okay. And then this is talking about the substantial tax understatement penalty. I covered that at the beginning of the video. Right. 10% of your correct tax liability, or $10,000. Right. The understatement has to be more than the greater of those things. I explained that, I think, in simpler English before. Information about interest, how the IRS calculates interest. I've made a whole video about that. Link to that video at the top of the screen. Interest, IRS interest can change quarterly. They do kind of reset it or not reset it, but they reevaluate it quarterly. Oh, and then there's the notice of deficiency waiver. This is if, you can use this form to respond to AUR, right? Right. So, I'll probably cover this form in a different video here, but basically one thing that I do really want to say, okay, really, really, truly, don't sign this consent form. Unless you've consulted with a tax professional, right? Because by consenting to the tax and the penalty, right, you're basically saying, hey, IRS, you're right about all this. I don't have any extra deductions you can consider here, right? Which may or may not be the case. So I would, go ask around, tax professionals. If you work with us, we're 99% of the time we're going to say, no, do not consent to the assessment, right? We want to fight this for you, right? But you do you. All right, so that's basically it for the CP3219A. What should you do if you receive this notice? Well, it's basically the same thing you should do if you got CP2000, right? I mean, obviously tax court is kind of another angle here. You can work this now. But you're going to want to make your case to the IRS, if you just want to keep with the IRS, right, that the amount of tax the IRS is proposing on this income is not proper, right? Either because you do not actually earn that income, is fraudulent or mistaken or something. You earn less than that income stated on the document, or you had expenses, right, that you can report against that income that the IRS isn't giving you credit for, right? Explain all this in a nice template, right? I think I've shown some here on the channels before. Very professionally written, right? Your name, social, right? All the stuff, and fax it over to the number, the fax number for AUR on the form itself. And that is how I would deal with this, my friends. And then sit and wait. It's going to take a while before AUR gets back to us. I showed you something at the beginning of this video that it took them almost 3 months, 87 days, right, to get back to us regarding a response on a CP2000 or CP3219A. On that point, I just made another video about that upper left-hand corner of the screen. I have all my tax relief videos here at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. If you got a CP2000, CP3219A, or some other nasty tax issue, reach out to us at Choice Tax Relief, 866-8000-TAX, or you can fill out the form at choicetaxrelief.com, and we will reach out to you. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.